Okay, we are on the next part, and I'm going to continue halfway through this page. Several of these fragments are to be found in two or more different authors, each of whom contains a different version of the same, differing not so much in the outline and in the general flow of words as in those technicalities and variations of termination, but which were necessary to adapt them to the author's style. It has been a source of some little perplexity to determine which of these various readings to prefer. To Eusebius, Syncellus, and Josephus, we are largely indebted for these relics of antiquity. For Josephus, I have followed Hudson's editions. The Cologne edition of the Peripatio Evangelica of Eusebius is often considered the best. But upon close inspection and comparison, I have been induced to prefer the text of Stephanus. With the exception of a mutilated translation into Latin by Hieronymus, Eusebius' chronicle was lost. So when did they find it? Until that title, however, Scaliger compiled a very portly folio, which, with some other chronicles, contains a collection of all the fragments of the Greek text of Eusebius that could be found. The recovery of the Armenian translations of this chronicle is a great acquisition. Wait, are they talking about the Preparatio Evangelica? Okay, so are there? I'm gonna start asking right away. Are there different types of Preparatio Evangelica? Because it's saying there's an Armenian version, which is really interesting. So that's kind of interesting. It means preparation for the gospel. Here, let me pull this up right here. The term itself, yeah, Eusebius, this is his main book. So Cory was saying that like they found it, right, and it was lost, and they only had fragments of this writing from Hieronymus, and it was in Latin, it wasn't in Greek. And then there's an Armenian version. So, as a preparation for the acceptance of the Christian gospel. Oh, I don't understand. Okay, so it's like kind of like giving me these like kind of bullet point. Dang, dude, how far is this? What the hell? Wait, okay, hold on. Is it a book? The Hebraic Preparatio? Oh, okay. Okay, this is like kind of interesting. I don't really know what it's trying to say. Or maybe it's like misinterpreting what I'm asking. No, okay, hold on, let me ask it another thing, because I think it's like thinking it's like so this is like some sort of like sacrament, or it's like a recognition of something. It's not. I don't think that's what. I think this is like a text. Is this a text? me ask it. Oh, sorry, where were we? Sorry to be scrolling around. It bothers me when people do that too. Okay, so the Cologne edition is French? Or is that Italian? I don't know where Cologne is. I forget where it's at. With the exception, okay, so, and if so, is there a translation? Is it originally in ancient Greek, and are there translations in Latin by Hieronymus and an Armenian translation? I don't know who wrote the Armenian translation, but this seems to be something important that I'm not really like. I can't see it right now because I don't know what this is, but I feel like this is important. Okay, the Preparov here. I'm gonna pull it up right here so I don't have to read so much. You guys can just like kind of pause the video and look at it for yourselves and make of it. So this was written by Eusebius. He's a Greco-Roman, but I mean Roman Empire era author of these lands. So what the hell? See, like, you know, when it's saying that like Christianity was being popularized in this time, from what I understand about history, Christianity didn't become like a widespread belief until like the 500s AD. I think it was like a niche like subgroup, and the pagan religion still kind of thrived, especially within the Roman Empire. So this information right now is just kind of like throwing me off, and I'm just probably gonna say right now that Cory's probably not lying about what he's trying to say, and but see, I don't understand like, and now like understanding like Christian influence in the Roman Empire during this era, because this kind of throws me off. And like you can argue like, oh, this book is so old, like the information's not that, it's not polished, so he's just kind of speaking off really old information. But I mean, now like nowadays when you kind of like looking at stuff, it seems like the old information seems to be like a lot better. Seems to be like more authentic and more like it stands the test of time. And that's kind of like something like analogous to like old like machines and equipment, because I'm noticing like, you know, in the workplace that I am in, we deal with a lot of like new machines and new equipment, and I have like an engineer always telling me like, you know, we got this machine from like the Vietnam War, and you know, some stuff even like from World War II that's still like kind of working good to this day. So I mean, that's just kind of like an analogy of like how some of the older stuff is like kind of still relevant to this day. So it's always good to just have this in like your back pocket and pull this information out, because right now this is like conflicting with what I know about history. So that means somebody's lying, or somebody doesn't know, or somebody doesn't have the right information, and like now I have to discern that, because like there was really no Christian influence of this like what seems to be like a, I don't even know, like it like heavy influence at a much earlier date than what I've been told, because I was told like Constantine and like that whole movement and like the battle of I think Milvian Bridge, that was like solidifying Christianity within the Roman Empire, and then that's how like from there like it completely expanded to the point where you get the early papal states and how they get influence into like Europe and stuff like that in later centuries, like the Carolingian dynasty and how like that like gets kind of like intertwined with the papal states. That all happens at a later period than like 260 AD. That's like almost like 300 years before like any type of like Christian influence would be super popularized. So this like I said, this text is really interesting. So I'm gonna kind of read some of the content on here. So it says here that the Greek philosophy, history, and culture, despite being pagan, contained glimpses of truth that led to the superior truth of the Christian revelation. Yeah, see, like, I don't understand how, like, they already had... Let me look up when the Nicene Creed was. When was the Nicene Creed? Okay, so... Oh, I got a network error. Alright, whatever. This seems to be enough information. 320... So, okay, so... The Nicene Creed happened in Eusebius' lifetime, so he was probably involved in that whole entire, like, creed. Because that creed was, like, basically, like, them... Oh, yeah, see here, like, the first count, convened by the Emperor Constantine. Oh, so... Produced the original... I thought Constantinople and all that stuff happened at a much later time. I must have my dates wrong, I guess. Well, that's fair. Constantinopolitan Creed. Yeah, this is what you have to say like every mass. This is a Nicene Creed. Okay, well, I guess that kind of puts everything now in a perspective for me. Because I was thinking like Constantinople happened at a later time and relative to like Eusebius' lifetime, but this is all happening, I guess. During the same time period. That's freaking crazy. I did not know that. Interesting. You guys really had some information out there then. Okay, so what's up with the Armenian translation? Did it give me any information on... Okay. A partial and Armenian translation survives and is important in contextual reconstruction. What? Okay, so it got lost, right? So this is what Cory's saying, that this document... Yeah, okay, so with the exception of a mutilated translation into Latin, which they had, Eusebius' chronicle was lost. So did they not know what was in that document? I don't understand when they're saying it was lost. The recovery of the Armenian translation of this chronicle is a great acquisition. See, like, when he says that, that kind of like rings a bell, because like everybody knows what's in Armenia. Let me see, can you provide more detail on the Armenian translation? Okay, so yeah, these are found at later time periods, obviously, but it's saying that they were discovered like in the 5th and 6th century. A period when many Greek Christian texts were translated into Armenian. This translation is significant for textual criticism because parts of the Greek original are lost, and So, okay, so now let me put this in the... Dude, why is like... Dude, ChatGPT's like crapping out on me, dude. It's like just frozen right here. Oh my gosh. Um, Dude, it totally froze on me. Alright, this is a lot of deep history that like I don't think I really need to go into this stuff, but what I'm trying to pull from this is like who they're sourcing it and why they're sourcing it. Because Armenia, I think Armenia was probably part of the Roman Empire, and like kind of like it was in a constant tug of war between like the Roman Empire and like the Persian empires, for like quite a bit of time. So them having the document makes sense, especially if there's like a lot of influence there in that time period. Um, I'm trying to like piece things more together. So let me ask it if this so the original text of Eusebius is completely lost, correct? What the hell? Yeah, I don't know, like I don't know why ChatGPT is like just crapping out. Okay, there we go, I fixed it. I don't know, it needed to be refreshed. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so it's just saying that I guess they are like they were found. The Greek manuscripts were preserved primarily in Byzantine scriptoria, copied through the Middle Ages. Okay, well, let's see here. Interesting. Also, then, what does this book contain that's so important? Because, I mean, we already know about Berosus and like how like freaking crazy that crap is, but like, what is with this? Does it contain like a cosmogony and like a list of kings that I'm not aware of? I mean, I think I should just keep reading and see what Cory has to say, because that's typically how this book goes. It's like they give you just like a bunch of random crap that is just thrown at you, and then like you kind of just got a bunch of questions in your head, and then he starts explaining it. So, but now we have an understanding of what the that document is. So it's like it was basically written during like the whole Christian era when they're making the Nicene Creed. That's from my understanding, and then this got translated and then passed around as part of like the whole like Byzantine Empire expanding Christianity on like a huge scale. Which the Byzantine Empire is just the Eastern Roman Empire, which split after a lot of like migration and internal conflicts within the Roman Empire at a later date. This is why it's getting confusing to me, because I forget all the dates for all this stuff, but in my head I see it kind of. Alright, where are we at now? Let's see here. Alright. Shit. Excuse me. It is regarded upon the continent as perfectly authentic, but I am not aware that it has been examined or reviewed in England. To compress as much as possible all unnecessary observation upon the subject of materials, additions, and abbreviations, I have given at the end a list of the authors cited, which will answer at once the several purposes of an index to the abbreviations and to the additions I have used or referred to, as well as to the manuscripts and other sources from which some of those additions have been formed, or which have been consulted in the compilation of the work. I have likewise given it the form of a chronological index by adding the times in which the authors referred to flourished, that the reader may judge what degree of credit may be reposed in each. The letter contained in these fragments is only the only merit to which they can pretend. I have chosen what appeared to me the most genuine text, independent of all theory and system, and have given all the various readings of any consequence I have met with. I have retained Mr. Falconer's translation of Hanno Periplus, and with this exception, and some few of the most obscure of the oracles of Zoroaster, which are due to Mr. Taylor, I must be answerable for the rest. For the many errors in which they must abound, I beg leave to apologize and claim indulgence. The broken and confused state of many of the fragments preclude the possibility of giving any translation except upon conjecture. Many, such as the Orphic fragment of Malala and that from Amelius, I want to see this footer real quick. Oh, screw you. I have to go all the way to another page. And that from Amelius, I have exercised the talent and ingenuity of some of the ablest commentators, none of whom perhaps will be found to agree. In such cases, I have patiently compared their opinions and endeavored to investigate the circumstances under which the fragments were written and have been preserved, and what connection they have with the passages among which they are introduced, and to give what to the best of my judgment is the truth. Okay, so yeah, this is basically what we've been doing the whole time, is just kind of comparing all these things and kind of seeing what's similar and what's not, and then why it's similar and why it's not similar, and then drawing conclusions from all that, saying that, like, okay, this is probably like truth, and something like this did happen, and then something like this did not happen. It's kind of the whole premise of this attempt. At the conclusion of this work, I have added a disquisition, which was originally designed merely to explain and illustrate what I conceive to have been the ancient trinity of the Gentiles. But in the progress of inquiry, I found it impossible to do justice to the opinion without speaking largely upon ancient and modern science, as we do in today's age. To compress it, therefore, as much as possible, and to give it something of a connected arrangement, I have thrown it altogether into the form of an inquiry into the method, objects, and result of an ancient and modern philosophy, and as in this work I have endeavored to bring forward several historical and theological documents which had, in a manner, retired from public view. I trust that such an inquiry will not be deemed altogether misplaced, and that I shall be excused in an attempt to draw from the same storehouse of antiquity some speculations which have been too generally slighted or overlooked by the metaphysician and the philosopher, but which I believe may tend to the advancement of science, even amid the brilliant discoveries of modern times. Okay, I'm just gonna say it how does this, I already know how this contributes to modern science, but I want to know if he's saying the same thing about how this can contribute to how reading ancient stuff can lead to the advancement of science. Because you would think they're not connected, right? You would think how do hunter-gatherers help us determine a better advancement of the future, right? Well, that's because they weren't just hunter-gatherers back then. There was some crazy stuff that happened back then that we're not aware about. So, this book is saying it, and this guy with all due respect, is like dragging on what he's trying to say with these really long sentences. But I guess we'll just have to keep continuing because I really want to know what this guy's saying. With respect to the fragments themselves, the classical reader will find, I fear, but poor amusement in pursuing a half-barbarous dialect, replete with errors and inconsistencies. To the student of divinity, however, they may not be altogether unacceptable or devoid of interest, and to the inquirer after ancient history and mythology, it must be useful to have collected into one small volume the scattered relics for which he must otherwise search so widely. Yay, finally. Took about enough time. The Theology of the Phoenicians from Sanchoniathon. Maybe I should end it here. Oh, here we go. This is juicy stuff. Finally. I'm gonna end it here, and then we're gonna definitely start with these ancient fragments, because these things, just kind of making the connections and looking at the old symbology, this is probably like where stuff is just gonna like start connecting. So I'm gonna kind of like do this at a later time and then go into this in depth pretty good. So what's cool about this book is they have like the, I guess, original Greek on the left, and then like the translation, and I'm assuming this is Cory's translation, on the right. So dang, this is crazy. This is kind of looking at like it's like a new King James version, and then you have like the ancient Hebrew. But anyways, we'll continue this in the next part. I don't want to start this part without starting from the beginning of like a video. So yeah, continue in the next part.